Okay, so welcome to another week of our show, Ant and Jer show, where we discuss personal development ideas. We're on episode 11 now. So these weeks are really flying by. I hope we're giving you some really good content here, making you think, making you take these ideas and see if you can add them into your life so you can improve your life. So, as you know, we take personal development ideas and we talk about them. So, I'm going to get the idea this week on the screen. And here it is. This has been taken from the book, The Science of Getting Rich, which was written by Wallace D. Wattles a very long time ago. But this idea is very relevant today and always. It always will be. So let's read it out. You must get rid of the thought of competition. You are to create, not to compete for what is already created. Now, obviously, the book, The Science of Getting Rich, is all aimed towards building wealth and getting rich, bringing all of this abundance into your life in a monetary sort of fashion. So, what he's saying is then, in order to do that, you must get rid of the thought of competition, which here straight away kind of conflicts with a lot of business because a lot of businesses think in terms of I've got to beat my competition, I've got to market better than them, or like what are they doing? I've got to get better than that. What are they charging? I'll cold call them and check what they're charging so I can adjust my prices. It's all competition. So that way you're not thinking with your own mind. And as we've discussed on this channel many times before, we are blessed with creative faculties in our mind. And we've come to the conclusion that the reason why we have those creative faculties and no other life forms do is because we are here to create. And being in the competitive mind is always watching others, always trying to beat one person so they lose and you win. Now, this is kind of a fear-based exercise, in my opinion, and existence because if one person wins and one person loses, you're always on the cusp of losing, no matter how many times you win. But if you're in the creative mind and what you focus on grows, and you're always expanding whatever's around you and all of your creations, you're drawing all of this sort of inner creation out and bringing it out into the world, then in my opinion, you're always winning. Always, because you're creating, it's coming from you, like the depths of your soul. You're expressing yourself. So you are to create, not to compete for what is already created. So again, here, yeah, if someone's created their pricing structure, that's fine. They've done that. Good on them. But if it's your pricing structure, for instance, then you need to concentrate on what your pricing structure is going to be based on how you're going to sell it, what value you're going to give. So it's all based on your creation. Now, that's how I'm seeing that at the moment. So, what do you see, Joe?
Yeah, that's very well put. And um yeah, I like the point where you the point where you said you're always on the cusp of like failure basically like this, because if you're in a competitive market and you're always trying to win over somebody else, then it's never going to last. It's unsustainable. You Someone in is going to win over you. Like you never see the same football team win the league every single year. It just does not happen. The competitiveness, it just can't, you can't sustain it. So I like the idea of creation. Um, yeah, and it can be used quite loosely. Like people think of like, oh, I need to create. They think like of artists and musicians and but actually in business, creation is like creating a new niche, creating a new idea for a business in an area that's already exists, but you're creating a new way of looking at it. You're not going in there. And then the good thing about being a creator is people will copy you, but then they'll fail. You know what I mean? They might succeed, but then you'll create another idea. You know what I mean? And then that old idea, that'll just fade away. So that company that's always trying to copy other ideas or trying to beat you, they're always behind you. You're always creating a new gap in the market for yourself. So you'll always have like fresh customers. You'll always gain the abundance first. And then one day if you keep creating, one of those ideas will be massive. And it'll just be the game-changing idea. A really interesting story was I think it was Apple phones when they released the iPhone first. I think it was Samsung or someone else they were trying to copy it. You know, they were trying to, they sent out a guy especially to go to Apple, get the phone, get the technology and create it. And he came back to and said, we've got 16 phones. They've got one. So they were trying to, they couldn't. Apple had niched down on one amazing idea and created it. And that all the other companies have spread themselves so thin because they're all in the competitive market. And they couldn't, even though it was one phone, they just couldn't compete with it. And Apple keep creating and creating on a few simple products, but they're continuously creating. So it's vitally important. And I would be much happier being in the creative business than the competitive business. Because as Ant touched on, we are creators. We have got our creative faculties, our imagination, perception, and will. So it's more fun for us to create. It's more joyous to go to work to create new ideas than be in a competitive business. And it's more stressful in the competitive business because if you're trying to win over the next guy, then the next guy behind you is trying to win over you. So it's a more stressful and unsustainable market to be in. But if you're creating, then it's just more fulfilling. It's much more joyful because you're using the creative faculties that we were all given, these amazing creative faculties, to create. So you're not worried if someone creates something that's, similar to yours. You just go off and create something in a new niche. And the more you create, the better you get at it. So yeah, that's my little take on it, Ant. Got anything to add onto that?
Yeah, I like what you said about, yeah, if someone's trying to copy your creations, they'll never catch up with you. They'll never keep up with your creations, basically, because it comes from you, so it's going to be more authentic. And two, if you move on to the next thing, they're going to be behind you again. So you're right, like people are not going to keep up with your creations. Again, when you touched on about it's much more joyful to be creative. Yeah, 100%. And again, I think the reason why that is because that's our intuition telling us, well, that's what you're here to do. You know what I mean? You're here to create. It's much more fun to create a product out of my imagination, I find, than what it would be, let's say, following up with customers because a customer's got 3 quotes for a job or whatever, and you're following up on the phone and say, oh, by the way, do you want to use our services over the others? And then you've got to convince them why and use all of these tactics and sales strategies to try and close the sale. I mean, that's not fun. That doesn't feel nice, but it happens in loads and loads of businesses. And if you analyze them, you will see the employees from those businesses are not that happy in their lives. They might be earning a lot of money. They might have a nice house. They might go on nice holidays, drive a nice car, but they are not happy. And that inner happiness is what we're here to experience again, is what I believe. So when you're creating, And like Joe said, it doesn't have to be a painting, it doesn't have to be a spray job or video editing or anything like that. It can be creating a system in your business, let's say. It could be creating a nice environment at home. It could be creating a nice atmosphere for you and your family. It could be all of these things, creating a culture statement, creating a vision for a business. So it doesn't,
Experience.
yeah, so it doesn't have to be. Sometimes when I think of creations, I think of like a songwriter or someone who like Eminem or Adele or someone like that, like a creative, but that's only one part of creation. We are here to create and we are creating anyway, but we're either doing it consciously or unconsciously. Because if we're thinking negative thoughts all day, we're creating a negative sort of environment because that's the vibration we bring ourselves down to and that all comes into our lives. So we want to be doing this consciously. And the first thing I believe to be conscious of is am I have I got a competitive mind or a creative mind? And I think we've touched on this before as well, because we both play football and sports and things where one team does win and one team does lose. So I know for me, I've been brought up with that mindset, that competitive mindset, and it has driven me on. But now I'm becoming conscious of this. The only person I'm really competing with is myself from yesterday. That's the only person or thing that I'm competing with. That's the way I see competition now. I'm just trying to get better every day, but I'm not trying to be better than, Tony Robbins, whoever it may be. I'm not trying to be better than any of them. I'm not even sort of watching them to copy and get ideas. I just try and be better, express more of myself, become a better me, basically. So, you see any more on that, Joe?
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. That last bit is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, like, because, we love doing personal development. And, Be the Limit as you, we have a whole program of helping people make a better, fulfilled life, where everybody can use their creative faculties to do positive, leave a positive output in the world. So yeah, we're not trying to compete with anybody, like you said, Tony Robbins or any other, personal development gurus, I like to call them, or coaches. We're creating our own space and being the authentic people that we are, our authentic self, and living our life on our purpose, which is to help others have a fulfilled life. And I just think, yeah, that's just amazing what you said, really. Is yeah. Because if we were in the mind, if we were in the competitive mindset, you know what I mean, we'd just copy everything Tony Robbins is doing and then try and better it and say, yeah, we're going to beat him. But we're not in that mindset. We're in the mindset that we're just going to create our own market through our own creative faculties. Because we're living our life on purpose, and it's much more joyful doing that. I said this already. It's much more fun to do it this way than do it the other way. Yes, you can study great. Yes, you should study people who are very influential in your area or your industry of work. Because if someone's doing it at the top of their game, then they're obviously doing something very right. But you need to always do your own authentic way and put your own creative faculties into use and do it your own way. But it's not a raw bad thing to have not get ideas, but to see how other people are doing it. But then you always need to create your own way. You cannot be a copycat. It just doesn't work. It, you'll never be fulfilled with your work if you're copying somebody else. You have to be your true authentic self. I have a product that I created completely from scratch. Me and my daughter created it together, and it's been copied, and I think, yeah, that person's just going online, finding a product that's new and just copying it. And it's just like, it's they won't sustain it because I'm going to create a new product and a new product, and then probably get copied and copied. But if you look at the two products, mine one's so much better because it's got proper creation in it. It's got proper thought in it. The other one's just a knockoff that looks like it. And it's, I think, whoever it is they won't have the fulfillment, that joy of creating something in your imagination and bringing it to life. Um, it's a really, really good experience. It's when you do it, it's like, yes, this is what I was meant to do. This is what life is all about. So yeah, let's go back to it. You must get rid of the thought of competition. That's difficult in business because people would think of business like, I'm competing for the business. You're not. You should be creating the business. So even people need to change their mindset on what business is about. It's not about winning and beating the other guy. It's about creating your own space in business. If you create your own space, then nobody can knock you off. Like, you are the best. Your brand will be the best because you created it. You didn't beat someone else, you created your space. Amazon is the best like online seller. They created a whole new market for themselves. Like, they just created a whole new world, and we all think that's normal now. They created reviews, 5-star reviews. Like, you wouldn't go into a shop today and they won't have 5-star reviews on the on the shelf. You know what I mean? Amazon created 5-star reviews. It's amazing. They're a very good example, actually, Amazon, of how much creating is done. They've created everything. They've just created their own niche in the market and created the market itself. So they're not competitors. Everybody's trying to compete with them now. But they're never going to get anywhere near them. So yeah, you need to get out of the competitive mindset and get into the creative mindset. Yeah.
Because even when you look at like salesmen and a lot of marketers out there at the moment, they're almost in competition with the potential customer. Like, if they convert the customer, they see it as a win, and the customer kind of loses. Now they've got all the sales patter. They'll say, "Oh no, it was the best product for the customer," and all that. But it's one thing saying it; it's another thing actually meaning it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and that's what we haven't done. We have created this company, and we don't go out there and try and win over customers. We let the business speak for itself, and we let people make an informed decision. And we're not saying, "Oh, this is the best product for you." We know it's a world-class product, our services, and we let it speak for ourselves because we've created it. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. It just suddenly come to mind. Yeah, a lot of salespeople out there, they're trying to win over customers, and therefore, wherever you win by the law of polarity, there has to be a loss. So
Mm.
who's lost? The customer, the purchaser. So
It's interesting.
it's an interesting viewpoint, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you can't possibly win without the potential for being a loss. So that is an interesting mindset. And like I say, a lot of these people, because they're well trained and they've learned all the skills, there are certain skills you can learn using emotion and things like that to convert people into making sales. It's been done for years and it will continue to be done. It's just getting more politer nowadays and done with a smile, which is almost in some cases even more dangerous, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's one thing saying the right things, it's another thing actually meaning and actioning the right thing. And it brings me to Bob Proctor, where he said some of his ideas, he said, I don't care if you can memorize it. I don't care if you can say it better than me. It does not mean you understand it.
Mm.
It does not mean you understand it because you don't understand something until you sort of take it away and create something of yourself out of it. So yeah, if Tony Robbins was to say something, I might say, oh, that's a great idea. What does that idea mean to me? It means this, and I'll go and journal and write about it. I won't just copy a sentence that Tony Robbins said and put it out there and think, well, this makes Tony Robbins sales. I'm going to say the same thing. It will make me sales, and I might beat him. Just using an example, you know,
Yeah.
gone slightly off track there, but I think there is a point to that. Now we've got 1 minute left, Joe. Do you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah. This book was written in the end of the 1800s, and it's still relevant today. So just bear that in mind, that the universe, our world, how it operates, it doesn't change. It does not change. The Science of Getting Rich was written in the end of the 1800s. And I'm talking about something out of that book, and I'm talking about Amazon and Apple. So, you know what I mean? You have to understand that these people back in the early 1900s and the end of the 1800s had some serious knowledge, and they didn't have YouTube they had to think for themselves, and that's why I love studying the old books, because they really think about it. So and it hasn't changed in 100 years, over 100 years. So it just leave that resonate with you. Someone in the 1800s says you have to get out of the competitive market and into the creative market. And it's still relevant today. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. That's how important it is.